Jim Bauer with Bauer Trading from Lafayette, Indiana. You can reach us at www.bauertrading.com in case you have any questions or you need some follow-up information about this particular report. This is a major report for the year and does lay the foundation from a fundamental standpoint as we come into the more critical reproductive stage of these crops here in the northern hemisphere. This is a report which has been anxiously awaited by not only the producers but the end users all over the world, and so we'll try to assess some of the key points that came off the report and try to give some idea just where this market is heading as we come into the more critical time frame of the growing season. Today's report will start out with corn. Obviously, that was the situation where a lot of people had a big question mark, but when we look at the total planted acreage of combined corn, soybean, and all wheat, it's about 4.6 million acres, more than the USDA March intentions report, and I think that's probably by itself the one single most negative factor to the overall price discovery on this particular report. Inside the structure of that total planted acreage number, we had a corn acreage number which was up about 2 million acres over what the trade thought it was going to be, and certainly indicates to us that that progress that they made early spring in that western and northern corn belt, where they had much better weather than the eastern corn belt, obviously progressed at a very, very fast pace. And of course, with today's 36 and 48-row corn planters, it doesn't take long to plant a lot of corn, and this particular report certainly indicates that the U.S. producer has that capability in a big, big way. The quarterly stocks number at 4.266 billion bushels for corn is also above the trade estimate. The trade estimate had a range of 4.064 to 4.321 billion bushels, and so that number also by itself is at the higher end of the trade expectations and indicates a larger old crop carryover situation. So again, that total planted acreage up 4.6 million acres for corn, soybeans, and all wheat, led by that big increase in corn acres, was, again, in my opinion, the biggest surprise to the marketplace. Dropping now into the soybean sector, where we're still trying to get part of this year's crop planted. There's still some areas, in particularly Indiana, Illinois, and even Tennessee, where they're really still trying to get some acres in soy planted for the first time. I'm not even talking about double crop beans. But looking at today's USDA number, the acreage number for soybeans was about 800,000 acres less than the trade expected, but it was up 1.5 million acres from the March intentions report. So I suppose by itself, in my opinion, that number on beans, just by itself, no other factors aligned with it or sympathy with it, that would be, in my opinion, a little bit positive. The bean stocks number just slightly higher than the trade expectations, but not much. Maybe it's a slight disappointment to the bulls. But I still think, even though the stocks are up a little higher than the trade expected, we still have a very, very tight old crop situation. And I still think in the days, weeks ahead of us, we're still going to see those bull spreads probably work. Of course, if they start to break down and consistently don't show strength, then that may be a sign that the market is topping out and producers need to take a real hard look at maybe some pricing opportunities. Again, I think the corn may also put, from a psychological standpoint, a little bit of pressure on the soybeans today, but beans, at least here on the early calls, from what I'm kind of picking up right now, are called about 5 lower, while corn is called about 20 to 25 lower, at least on the start out, but we'll see how that progresses as we get closer to the opening. On wheat, I think the biggest surprise there was a lot of people have been talking about less spring wheat acres coming into this report because of what happened up north, but again, the American producer has shown his ability or her ability to really get out there in those fields with the technology and the equipment that we have, and actually spring wheat acreage was up about 400,000 acres from what the trade thought. We did see a winter wheat acreage number up 600,000 from an acreage standpoint than what the trade thought, and we even saw Durham up 100,000 acres. So total wheat acres was up approximately 1.1 million from the March intentions report, and I don't think the market had that dialed in. And again, in those the stock situation, the old crop carryover at 667 million is higher than the trade expectation of 640 million bushels. So that too, by itself, as a single factor, probably was a little bit to the negative side. Although I think most people recognize that the carryout in wheat has been relatively burdensome to that market all along. Again, these numbers total in the wheat sector would point to a larger carryout pushing out towards September, or say towards July of 2010. So the market is going to have to work through that. The next 7 days should be the busiest and heaviest combine activity in the number one producing state of Kansas. So that too tends to put a little pressure on the market by itself. So in summary, the market's going to have to take a good hard look at this, maybe break it down a little bit more. The market will do its job. It will build these numbers into the price discovery mechanism here now over the next several days. Once that job is accomplished, then I think we do have to revert back to weather. Here in the eastern Corn Belt, even though we're making some progress here now, we've still got, as I mentioned earlier, some soybeans to plant. The beans are small, and there's always that critical question what the weather is going to be like at the pollination time, particularly for corn, which in my opinion, the chief time of pollination now here in the Midwest is for most of the corn. Some will tassel earlier, some will tassel slightly later, but the real critical time for corn pollination is going to be about July 12th to August 2nd. So weather will be really important in that particular time frame. And then for soybeans, August and this year September is going to be important because of the lateness of this crop, particularly in the eastern Corn Belt. And if the El Nino factors do continue to drift in here, and there are some concerns about that, here at Bauer Trading, we are still looking for some issues stemming from El Nino to come into play in August and again in the month of September, based upon the advice and strategy that our chief meteorologist is looking at. Of course, weather is fickle and can change on us quickly, either good or bad, but we are very concerned about the El Nino effect going out into the late summer, and particularly the month of September this year, where the crop is really still going to be in its final stages.